The sound of screeching tires and the unmistakable hiss of escaping air shattered the quiet evening. Jamal's head snapped up from his game of dribbling a worn basketball on the cracked sidewalk. A sleek black luxury car sat tilted on the roadside, its rear tire deflated and the faint glint of a crack running along one of its headlights. The man behind the wheel climbed out, his face a mixture of frustration and disbelief. He wore a sharp, tailored suit that seemed out of place in this modest neighborhood. "Unreal," the man muttered, pacing beside the car. His polished shoes clicked against the pavement as he scanned the area, clearly out of his element. Jamal hesitated, his instincts warring with his curiosity. "Should I?" he mumbled, clutching his basketball tighter. But his mother's words echoed in his mind, "Always help when you can. Kindness costs nothing." Steeling himself, Jamal jogged over. Mister, you okay?" The man looked up sharply, his eyes narrowing at first, but then softening. "You know anything about fixing tires?" "Yeah, a little. My dad taught me," Jamal replied, setting the ball aside. He had helped his late father with repairs often enough to know the basics. "Got a spare in the trunk?" The man gestured to the car. "Yeah, but I don't have tools." "Do you?" Jamal thought for a moment, then sprinted to his cousin's garage nearby. Minutes later, he returned with a rusty tire iron and a jack. The man watched, eyebrows raised, as Jamal knelt by the car, loosening bolts and maneuvering the jack into place with practiced ease. His small hands worked quickly, despite the tools being too big for his grip. "You're pretty good at this," the man remarked, leaning against the car, his tone now more curious than annoyed. Jamal shrugged. "It's not hard. Just takes patience." In less than 20 minutes, the new tire was on. Jamal stood up, brushing dirt off his hands. "All set. Should be good to go." The man looked at him, then reached into his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. "Here, kid. For your trouble." Jamal shook his head, stepping back. "I don't need money. Just glad I could help." The man paused, clearly taken aback. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the man smiled, a smile that didn't just show gratitude, but admiration. "You're different," he said. "Most kids would have taken this and run. What's your name?" "Jamal." The man extended a hand. "I'm Marcus. Marcus Townsend." Jamal shook his hand, the firm grip surprising him. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Townsend." Marcus's gaze lingered on Jamal, as if he were considering something. Finally, he said, "Jamal, how about this? Let me give you something better than cash. You ever heard of an opportunity of a lifetime?" Jamal frowned. "What kind of opportunity?" Marcus leaned closer, his voice low. "A chance to change your life. Trust me, kid, you won't regret it. But it's up to you." Jamal's heart raced. Was this guy serious? His mind whirled with questions, doubts, and a spark of curiosity he couldn't ignore. Before he could respond, Marcus stepped back toward his car. "Think about it," Marcus said, slipping into the driver's seat. "I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place." The engine roared to life, and in seconds, the car was gone, leaving Jamal standing there, the rusted tools in his hands and a mix of hope and uncertainty in his heart. What would you do if a stranger offered you an opportunity like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Jamal couldn't shake the encounter from his mind. As the hours crept by, Marcus Townsend's words played on repeat. A chance to change your life. What did he mean by that? And why him, of all people? Jamal sat on the steps of his apartment complex, staring at the tire iron he'd returned to his cousin earlier. It felt like a piece of a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. His mom's voice cut through his thoughts. "Jamal, you've been out here all evening. Come in for dinner." "Coming," he replied, though his legs stayed planted. Inside, the smell of fried chicken filled the small apartment. His mom, Vanessa, moved between the stove and the table, setting plates down with the ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "You look like you've got something on your mind," she said, glancing over her shoulder. Jamal hesitated. "I helped some guy with his car today. He said he's coming back tomorrow." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Some guy? A rich guy? Fancy car, nice suit, the works. He said he wanted to give me an opportunity." Vanessa's face softened with concern. And you're thinking about it? Jamal shrugged. I don't know. He seemed different. Like he meant it. Vanessa sighed, sitting across from him. Baby, I know the world can be tough. People like us don't get opportunities handed to us every day. But you've got to be careful. Not everyone who promises you something good has the right intentions. I know, Mom. But what if he's serious? What if this is my chance to do something bigger? She reached across the table, placing a hand on his. Jamal, you're a smart boy. Whatever you decide, just make sure it's something you can live with. The next day, Jamal couldn't concentrate at school. His friends, Mike and Brandon, noticed his distraction during lunch. Yo, what's up with you? Mike asked, nudging him. Jamal hesitated. You ever feel like your whole life could change in one moment? Brandon snorted. Bro, you sound like one of those inspirational posters. No, seriously, Jamal said. I met this guy yesterday. He said he wanted to help me, but I don't know if I should trust him. Mike leaned in. Help you how? Jamal shrugged. He didn't say. Just that it's a chance to change everything. Brandon's expression turned serious. Sounds sketchy, man. My uncle got tricked by someone like that once. Promised him a job and everything, but it was a scam. Mike, always the optimist, chimed in. Yeah, but what if it's legit? Rich people have connections. Maybe this guy sees something in you. When the final bell rang, Jamal's nerves kicked in. He headed back to the spot where he'd helped Marcus the day before. The sky was tinged with orange as the sun dipped lower, and the faint hum of an engine drew his attention. Sure enough, the black luxury car rolled up, gleaming under the fading light. Marcus stepped out, wearing a different suit but the same confident air. Didn't think you'd come, he said, smiling. Jamal crossed his arms. I'm here. So, what's this opportunity you're talking about? Marcus nodded toward the car. How about we talk on the way? There's someone I'd like you to meet. Jamal hesitated, his mom's warning fresh in his mind. Where are we going? Marcus chuckled. Not far. I'll have you back before your mom even starts to worry. Taking a deep breath, Jamal opened the passenger door and slid in. As the car pulled away, he couldn't help but wonder if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, or the best decision he'd ever make. Jamal's heart pounded as the car sped through the streets. The leather seats were softer than anything he'd ever sat on, and the scent of expensive cologne filled the air. He glanced at Marcus, who kept his eyes on the road, exuding confidence. So, where are we going? Jamal finally asked, breaking the tense silence. Marcus grinned. You'll see soon enough. Patience, Jamal. Good things come to those who wait. The city skyline faded into the distance, replaced by sprawling mansions and lush green lawns. Jamal stared out the window, his eyes widening. He'd never seen houses this big, not even in movies. Finally, they pulled into the circular driveway of a massive estate. The house loomed above them, its white columns glowing in the light of the setting sun. Marcus parked and turned to Jamal. Welcome to my home. Jamal swallowed hard. This is your house. Marcus chuckled. It's one of them. Come on, there's someone I want you to meet. The inside of the house was even more breathtaking than the outside. Marble floors stretched as far as Jamal could see, and crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings. The walls were lined with paintings that looked like they belonged in a museum. Jamal barely noticed he'd stopped walking until Marcus turned back and motioned for him to follow. They entered a spacious living room where an older woman sat on a velvet couch. Her gray hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore an elegant dress that looked more expensive than Jamal's entire wardrobe. Jamal, this is my mother, Evelyn Townsend, Marcus said. Evelyn's eyes sparkled as she extended a hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jamal. Marcus has told me about your kindness yesterday. Not many young people would stop to help a stranger these days. Jamal blushed, shaking her hand. Nice to meet you, ma'am. She smiled warmly. Please, have a seat. Jamal sat on the edge of the couch, feeling out of place in his scuffed sneakers and faded jeans. Marcus sat beside him, his tone turning serious. Jamal, what you did yesterday wasn't just helpful, it was remarkable. You showed character, integrity, and a willingness to step up when others might have walked away. Evelyn nodded. Those are qualities we value highly in our family. Jamal shifted uncomfortably. I just did what anyone else would do. Marcus leaned forward. That's where you're wrong. Most people wouldn't have stopped. And that's why we want to help you. Jamal's brows furrowed. Help me how? Marcus exchanged a glance with his mother before speaking. We have resources, connections, and the ability to open doors that most people can only dream of. But we don't give those opportunities lightly. We want to invest in people who have the potential to do great things. People like you. Jamal's mouth went dry. You mean, like a scholarship or something? Evelyn smiled. Something far greater. We'd like to mentor you, Jamal. Help you navigate life and achieve things you may not even realize you're capable of. Jamal's head spun. A part of him wanted to say yes immediately, but another part felt overwhelmed. Could he really trust them? And what did they expect in return? Before he could respond, a butler entered, carrying a tray of sparkling glasses. Marcus took one and handed it to Jamal. Think it over, kid. You don't have to decide now. But opportunities like this don't come often. Jamal stared at the glass, his reflection shimmering on its surface. He knew his life would never be the same, no matter what he chose. Like and hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the story so far. Jamal barely slept that night. Marcus Townsend's words echoed in his mind. We want to invest in people like you. The idea of mentorship, of having someone guide him toward a brighter future, was both exciting and terrifying. But doubt gnawed at him. Why would someone as powerful as Marcus take an interest in a kid from the neighborhood? The next morning, Jamal sat at the small kitchen table while his mom cooked breakfast. Vanessa noticed his silence. Still thinking about that man from yesterday? She asked, placing a plate of eggs and toast in front of him. Jamal nodded. He said he wants to mentor me, help me do big things. But I don't know if I can trust him. Vanessa sighed, sitting down across from him. It's a big decision, Jamal. People like him, they don't come around often. But you have to ask yourself, what do they want in return? Jamal frowned. He didn't say. He just said he sees potential in me. Potential is a good thing, Vanessa said. But you've got to keep your eyes open. Sometimes opportunities come with strings attached. Later that day, Marcus's car rolled up to the curb outside Jamal's apartment. Jamal was already waiting, his nerves rattling as he climbed into the passenger seat. Marcus greeted him with a smile. Ready to take the next step? Marcus asked, his tone casual but expectant. Jamal hesitated. Before I say yes, I need to know, why me? Why are you doing this? Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Fair question. I'll be honest with you, Jamal. I grew up in a neighborhood like yours. People didn't think I'd amount to much, but one person believed in me. That's all it took to change my life. Now that I'm in a position to help, I want to do the same for others. Jamal studied Marcus's face, searching for signs of insincerity. But all he saw was honesty, and maybe a hint of vulnerability. Okay, Jamal said slowly. What's the first step? Marcus's smile widened. I want to introduce you to someone. Someone who's been where you are and came out on the other side. She's going to help us plan the next part of your journey. The car pulled into the parking lot of a sleek office building downtown. Jamal followed Marcus through the glass doors and into an elevator that soared to the top floor. When they stepped out, a woman in her 40s with a confident air greeted them. Her sharp suit and warm smile instantly commanded respect. Jamal, this is Ms. Lorraine Adams, Marcus said. She's a leadership coach and one of the smartest people I know. Lorraine extended a hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jamal. Marcus has told me a lot about you. Jamal shook her hand, feeling both intimidated and flattered. Nice to meet you too, ma'am. They sat in a spacious conference room with a stunning view of the city. Lorraine placed a folder on the table and slid it toward Jamal. Inside this folder are two things, she began. The first is a plan tailored to your strengths, ways to develop your skills and reach your goals. The second is a contract. Jamal's stomach tightened. A contract? Lorraine nodded. Yes. It outlines what we'll provide for you. Mentorship, resources, connections, and what we expect in return. Marcus leaned in. We're not asking for money, Jamal. We just want you to commit to working hard and giving back to your community when the time comes. That's all. Jamal opened the folder and skimmed the pages. The plan detailed educational opportunities, workshops, and even a potential internship at one of Marcus's companies. The contract was straightforward, but the weight of the decision loomed over him. Do I have to decide right now? Jamal asked. Lorraine smiled. Take your time. But remember, opportunities like this don't wait forever. As they drove back to Jamal's neighborhood, Marcus glanced at him. You've got a good head on your shoulders, kid. Whatever you decide, I know you'll make the right choice. Jamal stared out the window, his mind racing. He knew this was his chance to break free from the cycle of struggle he'd grown up in. But was it worth the risk? Jamal sat on the edge of his bed, the folder from Marcus and Lorraine resting on his lap. The weight of the decision pressed on him, heavier than anything he'd faced before. The contract seemed simple on the surface, but its implications felt enormous. Signing it meant committing to a future he could barely imagine, but it also meant leaving behind the comfort of the life he knew. His mom knocked softly on the door before stepping inside. She glanced at the folder and then at Jamal. Still thinking about it, huh? Jamal nodded. It's a lot, Mom. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? Vanessa sat beside him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. You've always been good enough, Jamal. This isn't about being perfect. It's about trying your best and trusting yourself. If you think this is the right path, I'll support you. But if you don't feel ready, that's okay too. Jamal looked down at the folder, his fingers tracing the edge of the papers. Marcus said opportunities like this don't come often. He's right, Vanessa said. But you don't have to decide out of fear. You decide because you know what's best for you. The next day, Jamal carried the folder to school, hoping to find some clarity. During lunch, he showed it to Mike and Brandon, spreading the documents across the table. Dude, this is crazy, Mike said, scanning the papers. They're offering you internships, workshops, even some kind of summer program. This is big. Brandon leaned back in his chair. Yeah, but what's the catch? Nobody gives you something for nothing. The only thing they're asking is that I work hard and give back when I can, Jamal said. That doesn't sound bad, right? Brandon shrugged. Maybe. But once you're in, what if they change the rules? You gotta think about stuff like that. Mike grinned. Man, you're always so paranoid. This is a chance to do something amazing, Jamal. If I were you, I'd sign it in a heartbeat. Jamal sighed. That's the thing. It's easy to say that when it's not your future on the line. After school, Jamal found himself walking toward Marcus's office building. He didn't know why he was there. Part of him hoped seeing Marcus again would help him decide. When he arrived, the receptionist greeted him with a warm smile. Mr. Townsend is expecting you. Go right in. Jamal hesitated before pushing open the large wooden doors. Inside, Marcus stood by the window, looking out over the city. He turned and smiled when he saw Jamal. Didn't expect to see you today, Marcus said, gesturing for Jamal to sit. What's on your mind? Jamal sat down, clutching the folder. I'm still not sure. This is a big decision. Marcus nodded. It is. And I don't want you to rush it. But let me ask you something, Jamal. What's your biggest fear about this? Jamal thought for a moment. That I'll fail. That I'll let everyone down. Marcus's expression softened. Failure isn't the end, Jamal. It's part of the process. I've failed more times than I can count. But every failure taught me something important. The only way you let people down is by not trying at all. Jamal's grip on the folder loosened slightly. What if I sign and realize it's not what I thought it would be? Marcus smiled. Then we talk about it. This isn't a trap, Jamal. It's a partnership. We're here to help you, not hold you back. That evening, Jamal sat at his desk, staring at the contract. His mom poked her head in. You okay? He nodded. Yeah. I think I know what I'm gonna do. Vanessa smiled. Whatever it is, I'm proud of you. Jamal picked up a pen and took a deep breath. His future was waiting, and he was ready to take the first step. The morning sun streamed through the cracks in Jamal's curtains as he sat at the kitchen table, the signed contract in his backpack. His mom sipped her coffee, watching him with a quiet smile. "You ready?" Vanessa asked. Jamal nodded. "I think so. It's scary, but I think this is the right move." Vanessa reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you for taking a chance. That's how you grow." He smiled, feeling a surge of reassurance. "Thanks, Mom." At Marcus's office, Jamal handed over the contract, his heart pounding as Marcus and Lorraine reviewed the papers. "You've made a brave choice, Jamal," Marcus said, setting the contract down. "Now, it's time to get to work." Lorraine slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a detailed schedule. "This is your roadmap for the next 6 months. We'll focus on academic enrichment, personal development, and leadership skills. We've also set up an internship at one of Marcus's companies for the summer." Jamal's eyes widened as he scrolled through the itinerary. It was more than he'd ever imagined. Workshops, mentorship sessions, and even a few trips to conferences in other cities. "This is a lot." "It is," Lorraine said with a nod. "But we believe you're up to the challenge. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jamal balanced school with the new programs Marcus and Lorraine had arranged. One evening, he found himself sitting in a crowded lecture hall, listening to a renowned entrepreneur talk about resilience and innovation. "Success isn't about never falling," the speaker said. "It's about getting back up every time you do." Those words stayed with Jamal as he navigated his new commitments. There were moments he doubted himself, times he felt overwhelmed by the expectations. But every time he considered giving up, he thought about his mom, Marcus, and the opportunity he'd been given. One afternoon, while shadowing a marketing team at Marcus's company, Jamal's mentor pulled him aside. "You've got a natural eye for this," she said, pointing to the concept he'd sketched for a campaign. "Have you ever thought about pursuing a career in marketing?" Jamal shook his head. "I never really thought about it before." "Well, you should. You've got talent," she said with a smile. "And talent like this can take you far." That evening, Jamal sat on the rooftop of his apartment building, staring out at the city lights. His world had expanded in ways he'd never thought possible, and for the first time, he allowed himself to dream. When Marcus called to check in, Jamal's voice was steady. "I think I'm starting to see what you meant about opportunities. Thank you for believing in me." Marcus's response was simple. "You earned this, Jamal. And this is just the beginning." Have you ever taken a leap of faith like Jamal? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Jamal's new life was thrilling, but it wasn't without challenges. The 6-month roadmap Lorraine had outlined was intense. Between school, mentorship sessions, and his internship, Jamal often felt like he was juggling too much. The pressure mounted as deadlines loomed, and the weight of expectations sometimes felt unbearable. One rainy evening, Jamal sat at his desk, staring at a half-finished presentation for his internship. His notebook was open, filled with scribbled ideas that refused to come together. Frustration boiled over, and he slammed his pen down, burying his face in his hands. His mom appeared in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "What's wrong, baby?" "I can't do this, Mom," Jamal said, his voice cracking. "It's too much. I'm not smart enough for this." Vanessa stepped into the room and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Jamal, you're more than smart enough. You've already come so far. Don't let one bad day make you forget that." Jamal looked up at her, tears brimming in his eyes. "What if I let everyone down?" Vanessa knelt beside him, her voice steady. "You're not doing this for everyone else. You're doing this for you. And no matter what happens, I'll always be proud of you." Her words stayed with him as he picked up his pen and got back to work. Slowly but surely, the ideas started to flow. The next day, Jamal presented his marketing concept to the team. His voice trembled at first, but as he delved into his ideas, his confidence grew. When he finished, there was a moment of silence before the room erupted into applause. "This is fantastic," his mentor said, beaming. "You've got a real talent for this, Jamal." For the first time in weeks, Jamal felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Maybe he could handle this after all. As the months passed, Jamal began to thrive. He excelled in his internship, impressed his mentors, and even discovered a passion for public speaking during a leadership workshop. But the most significant moment came during a community outreach event Marcus had organized. Jamal was tasked with leading a group of younger kids in a workshop on creativity. At first, he was nervous, unsure if he could connect with them. But as the session went on, he saw himself in their eager faces. He realized that his journey wasn't just about his own success, it was about inspiring others to believe in themselves. By the end of the workshop, one of the kids approached him with wide eyes. "I want to be like you when I grow up," she said. Jamal smiled, feeling a swell of pride. "You can be even better." That evening, Marcus pulled Jamal aside. "You've grown so much, Jamal. But what I'm most proud of is how you've started giving back. That's what this is all about." Jamal looked at Marcus, his voice steady. "I get it now. It's not just about taking opportunities. It's about creating them for others." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. And this is just the beginning." 6 months had passed since Jamal first signed the contract. Sitting on the stage of a grand auditorium, he glanced out at the audience. Hundreds of people filled the seats, from students and community leaders to executives from Marcus's company. This was the culmination of his journey, the day he would share his story and what he had learned. Marcus and Lorraine sat in the front row, their faces glowing with pride. Jamal took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone. "When I started this journey, I didn't believe in myself," he began. "I thought opportunities like this weren't meant for kids like me. But I've learned that what matters most isn't where you start, it's what you're willing to do to grow." He paused, scanning the audience. "I've faced challenges that made me question if I was good enough. But each time I wanted to quit, I remembered the people who believed in me. My mom, my mentors, and even the kids I've had the privilege to inspire. They showed me that success isn't about doing it alone. It's about lifting others as you climb." Applause rippled through the room as Jamal continued. He spoke about the lessons he'd learned, resilience, the value of hard work, and the importance of giving back. By the time he finished, the audience was on their feet, their cheers echoing through the auditorium. After the event, Marcus pulled Jamal aside. "You were incredible up there. I couldn't be prouder." Jamal smiled. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Marcus shook his head. "We gave you a chance, but you're the one who made the most of it. This is just the beginning for you, Jamal. You've got the tools to create the life you want and to help others do the same." Lorraine joined them, her expression warm. "So, what's next for you, Jamal?" Jamal thought for a moment, his gaze steady. "I want to keep learning and growing. But more than that, I want to build something that helps others. Maybe a program for kids in neighborhoods like mine, so they can have the same opportunities I've had." Marcus's smile widened. "I'd say that sounds like a perfect next step." That evening, Jamal returned to his apartment, the applause from the audience still ringing in his ears. As he sat with his mom on their worn-out couch, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every struggle. "You've come a long way, baby," Vanessa said, her voice filled with pride. Jamal nodded, a determined smile on his face. "And I've still got a long way to go." The city lights twinkled outside the window, a reminder of the endless possibilities ahead. Jamal had taken the first step, and now, he was ready to create a path not just for himself but for others to follow. What's the most inspiring part of Jamal's journey for you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories.